Well, I tell you, I know like there's a whole lot of balls in the air, and it's if a couple of them break or one breaks, it's there could be some tough times ahead. But I feel like I'm getting more and more bullish about the future every day. I do think all of this eventually adds up to something very positive. What we're seeing be done.
Yeah, I mean, I think the majority of people that I hear talking about what's going on in Iran are completely missing that petrodollar dynamic that I talked to
Mhm.
you about. To me, that's it. That's you might not the problem is they can't really talk about that.
Uh huh.
Down the road, they can talk about it as a
Sure.
well. Look at this phenomenal knock-on effect that we benefited from
Yeah.
without letting people know that maybe that had as much to do with it as anything. Now, I think
Hmm.
some people would, especially if they're young, would think, "Oh man, that sounds really dirty," and that's why I did that post that the world's a ugly, messy place, and
Yeah.
especially some of the stuff I read when I was researching my grandfather's OSS missions during World War II. I mean, they're
Yeah.
declassified documents.
Hmm.
I spent a week going over in Maryland, but some of them surprised me. It's like, hey, you know, grow up. This is the way things really work, and there's some
Yeah.
ugly, ugly decisions that have to be made for the greater good.
Yeah.
If we lose, our currency dominance, forget it. Forget the military, forget the Wall
Yeah.
Street, forget the free lunch, forget everything. It's game
Yeah.
over. And then you're neutered and you're at risk of having somebody literally march onto your soil.
Yeah, 100%.
So
So, why don't you speak to that for a minute real quick, Jim? Just your take on the petrodollar and what Trump's accomplishing in Iran
I
through
mean,
that.
so it's just the writing was on the wall. They rolled out the BRICS, which
Mhm.
includes some of our adversaries, obviously, some
Yep.
countries that we thought were sort of friendly with us,
Uh-huh.
but even Brazil, once they jettisoned, was it Bolsonaro? Was that the
Bolsonaro, yep.
yeah? So I mean, it's like that one was no longer super friendly.
Mhm.
The woman in Mexico, whether he wants to say she's a very nice lady or not, she's basically a commie.
She is, yeah.
And so anyway, you start to go down the line, you already know that, China and Russia wanted to, replace the petrodollar. And so, it's national security risk, period.
Mhm.
So if you look at what's going on right now and the way that, new customers have been created and the way that we went into Venezuela prior, to me, you just start to connect the dots, and it looks to me like this whole event has much more to do with you know petrodollar dominance, which
Yeah.
equals energy security, which equals
Yes.
AI dominance, and that's it.
Yeah.
And if that makes someone want to scream and holler and say, but Trump said it was all about the the uranium and the nuclear and all that. Well, if all I can say is if you go read some declassified documents, not pour through a 600-page book just to get out one piece of meat, right? Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fluff in books to
Yeah.
sell.
Yeah.
But if you
100%.
literally go and dive into some declassified documents from World War II,
Mhm.
you'll be real surprised at a lot of different things and the dates and the cause and
Mhm.
effect and what was really going on
I
because
believe
they're
it.
playing a game that is at such a higher level than what we get fed by the
Oh,
mainstream
yeah.
media
Oh,
that
yeah,
our brains can't
absolutely.
even function that way.
Yes, I completely agree with you on
We're
that.
playing checkers. If we're even
Mhm.
playing checkers, we might be playing, Tiddlywinks or Pokemon, and they're playing, chess.
Yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
there's ugly, ugly stuff that happens.
Mhm.
Arguments always for the greater good. So then what you hope and pray is that your leaders are actually decent people, so that
Yes.
they actually believe it is the same greater good that you and I would view as greater good, as
Yes.
opposed to something really dirty greater good,
Yeah,
like
I
the
completely agree.
dollar greater good, meaning the dollar in their pocket, not
Yep.
US dollar dominance.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're
And
seeing
and there's
there's
just
so much
certain
power
things
there.
that we cannot allow.
Yeah.
The analogy I use is, and I don't want people to misunderstand it because I don't view the U.S. as like a bully. But
Mhm.
if you look at the perception the rest of the world, or a lot of the rest of the world, has about the US, and especially the younger people around the world. They've been
Yeah.
brainwashed into thinking that we are just this huge bully. We're responsible for
Yeah.
everything. Our forefathers, killed all the indigenous people and everything else when they didn't even throw a rock or a stick at them, on and on, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
to me, if Trump would have allowed the if he would have allowed the BRICS nations to continue doing what they were doing,
Yeah.
and if we really did lose dollar dominance, it's like a guy who's been on steroids his whole life, been in a bunch of scraps, and then he
Mhm.
has to get off them because like he's got some kidney issues or something, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden he's this shriveled up 160-pound dude, and then the other guys come looking for him.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
position we would have been in if Trump
Absolutely.
would have allowed the BRICS nations and everyone else
Mhm.
to dominate us.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, well, go ahead. Sorry. I want you to finish your thought and then
so I think with this sovereign fund, this is the other thing that I don't have a great handle on, but I've read
yeah.
enough to where it's interesting. And another probably Besant idea,
Hmm.
this sovereign fund where you basically say, hey, here's the value of our gold, here's the value of the oil under the ground and the natural gas, here's the value of our timber, and
Hmm.
on and on and on. And you say, hey, we're going to basically have a sovereign fund. And even like with what Trump did with Intel, which I don't love because it's, borderline,
Yep.
you know, the F word. But anyway, fascism, just, that tight of a link between corporations and a government, right? I don't
Yep.
love it, but I
No,
kind
me
of get
either.
it.
Yep.
Anyway, if you look at what they're trying to do with this sovereign wealth fund,
Yeah.
so that people can no longer say, hey, you have a fiat currency that's not worth anything.
Yep.
They can say, really?
Yeah.
Look at what the value is that sits underneath it if we were to,
Yes.
sell rights to it or manage it properly. And then not to mention the stripping away the fraud, waste, and abuse,
Yes.
which is a whole other. But anyway, if you have this thing that basically mimics what Russia and these other people are doing with
Yeah.
backing their pseudo sovereign fund with gold or whatever,
Yeah.
all of a sudden people can no longer claim, hey, this fiat currency is just this piece of paper that has no value. That's not true. They could
Yeah.
show you in dollars on a ledger what the value is that sits under it. And back.
That's such a good point, Jim. I had not even considered that. I'd forgotten about the sovereign wealth fund. I thought it was a great idea at the time, and I thought it was, an investment for the future of our country and the people of our country. I hadn't even thought of the fact that it literally create a backing to our currency that we haven't had.
Well, so think about it this way. They talk about stable coins, but if you have
Yeah.
a stable coin backed by US dollars and the perception was still that a US dollar is just this piece of paper, fiat, not worth anything,
Yeah.
that's one thing. If the stable coins are backed by USD and the USD is backed by the sovereign wealth fund's actual assets on the books, you go,
Yeah.
oh, okay, you guys are the gorilla in the room. Okay,
That is
we're going
genius.
to use we're going to use stable coins backed by USD. Now all of a sudden you have your dollar dominance back.
That's fascinating. That's absolutely genius. I hadn't even thought about that, and that makes so much sense. You just put together a big puzzle piece for me. Uh, and then I wanted to speak to a couple other things that you said to add on top of my thoughts because we're definitely tracking. But Trump has just kind of laughed off BRICS the last couple of times it's been brought up. I think he knows it's just done. And then his connections he's been making with Russia and China. I really believe that after Iran, Ukraine's going to end pretty quickly after. He's been basically letting Russia rebuild its economy by letting all this oil come out unsanctioned. And I think they're just going to have so much more leverage that Russia will end. And then we're going to open up trade with Russia. I really believe that's coming, why Trump has been meeting with Putin, which I think there's a lot of good stuff that could come out of that. But so BRICS, I just don't even think it's something we got to worry about anymore. But going to the petrodollar and everything, I don't hear anybody talking about it except for very few people, including myself. But yes, everything you said on the petrodollar, I 100% agree with. And the other thing is that the whole Iran situation has established us as the number one energy place in the world, and we're not going anywhere. Like, we export more than the next two high countries combined when it comes to natural gas. We're by far the largest oil exporter. And now everybody has to come to us. Like, Trump just completely reordered the world when it comes to energy. And that means nobody has leverage over us anymore because energy is the one thing everybody needs all the time.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
you notice he declared energy as, basically national defense, whatever,
Yeah.
that he declared. Well, that allows them to ramp up refinery building, which is so, the commies and the Marxists have basically gutted our refineries
Yes. Yep.
in California and
Yep. On
everywhere else.
purpose.
Well, if you want to process that dirty Venezuelan crude, you have to have the refineries that we have,
Yep.
like in Houston, but they're
Yep.
running full tilt. You
Yep.
have to build new capacity to refine,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And then especially if you want to allow the rest of the globe to become customers of the U.S., citizens are going to be kind of pissed off if the oil under our feet is sold out from under our feet with a corporate government partnership,
Sure.
whether it's through Trump or somebody after him, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden our prices are higher, even though the oil companies are doing really well. It's like, hang on a
Yeah.
second, it's like, you're going out and you're harvesting stuff from my garden, and then you're
Yeah.
giving all the food away, and my kids are starving.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So they have to be a little careful there. But I think that's the reason he they pulled some of those levers as far as placing certain things, being able to fast track business approvals based
Yep.
on national defense, right? Energy
Yes.
national defense.
Yep.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And that on top of that, Bam, I completely agree with you. People are like, "Why are prices so high here if we're exporting so much?" And I always tell them, like, "We don't have the refineries because the commie Democrat environmentalists crushed them all.
Yep,
Like, if we had the refineries, we'd have super cheap gas, and we never have to export a barrel, except for just stuff that we have overflow."
exactly.
But but we don't right now, and that's so why in the meantime Trump's allowing them to export, build up their revenues, so they can drill more, they can, because people don't know this about oil companies, they actually don't retain that much of their money they make as just pure income. Most of it's put back into reinvestment, and they're always reinvesting into drilling new stuff, and this encourages them to do that. And I'm sure he's got a plan, the whole bringing manufacturing back.
Yep.
All of a sudden you got factories, you got workers, and then if in any kind of emergency or anything, Trump could push out make a major push for new refineries. So all this is, step by step. It's not stuff that can be done overnight, but you can kind of see the stage being set.
Yeah.
And I think Trump absolutely knows all that. I mean, because everything he's done, if nothing else, there's one thing you can't criticize Trump on. It's that everything he's doing is clearly to make us more sovereign and less dependent on others.
Yes. Yes.
That is something that I don't think anybody can argue.
Yep.
You know,
And it makes his conversations with Putin and Xi um, easier than they were when he first came back after the Biden debacle.
Yep.
Because, I mean, we were in a death spiral and their leverage
Yep.
was the BRICS currency and everything else. It was going in a bad direction. Now, his meetings he's had recently, they probably winked at him and said, "Hey, nice job there in
Yep.
in the Strait of Hormuz. We
Yep.
know what you're doing."